My name is Evelyn Sears and I am 34 years old. On the last night of the year, my father stood on a stage in front of 140 guests, lifted a champagne glass, and announced that he was handing the family company to my brother. At midnight, he said, "I am officially passing Sears Meridian Group to my son Colton, the one who actually earned it." The room erupted. Applause. Champagne raised. The band played something triumphant. My husband Nathan found my hand under the table and squeezed. I squeezed back. Everyone counted down. 10, 9, 8, confetti ready. Noisemakers out. My brother stood on that stage like he belonged there, grinning, holding a glass that cost more than my first car. But here's what none of them knew. Not my father, not my brother, not the band that was about to stop playing. I had been preparing for this moment for 14 months, and at exactly midnight, I pressed send. This is how it happened. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories, where we share real-life stories about family justice, quiet strength, and the moments that change everything. If this is your first time here, drop a comment and be sure to subscribe so you never miss a story. To understand my family, you have to understand the company, Sears Meridian Group. My father, Gerald, founded it 30 years ago in a rented warehouse outside of Charlotte, with one delivery truck and a line of credit he had begged from 3 different banks. By the time I was in high school, it was a mid-size manufacturing and logistics firm. By the time I graduated from Wharton, it was publicly traded. $380 million market cap, 230 employees across 4 facilities. I joined as an intern the summer after business school. I was 26. Within 2 years I rebuilt the internal audit system from scratch. Within 5, I restructured $47 million in short-term debt during a liquidity crisis that almost shut us down. By 32, I was Vice President of Finance, the youngest VP in company history. My brother Colton joined 3 years ago. He was 28. He got the title of Vice President of Business Development, a corner office, an assistant, and a company credit card. What he did not get was accountability. Colton's division had no measurable deliverables, no performance reviews tied to output. He showed up, he shook hands at trade shows, he ordered lunch on the company card and called it client relations. When the board praised the company's turnaround after the liquidity crisis, my father stood at the quarterly meeting and thanked the team. Generic, broad, safe. The next day he bought Colton the new car. That was how the Sears family worked. My father had a saying. I heard it first when I was 16, sitting at the kitchen table doing homework while he talked to my mother about the future. "A son carries the name," he said. "A daughter carries the memories." I carried a lot more than memories, but Gerald Sears never counted what his daughter carried. The first time my father used champagne as a stage prop was 3 years before that New Year's Eve, his 60th birthday. Same estate, same ballroom, fewer guests, maybe 80, but the same crystal chandeliers, the same 12-piece band, the same catering company that wrapped napkins into little swans. Gerald Sears stood at the front of the room in a charcoal suit with a champagne flute in his hand and gave a speech about legacy. He talked about his own father, Hank Sears, who had built a small trucking company in the 70s and lost it when his 3 daughters sold it after he died. No son to carry it. No one who understood what it meant. "I promised myself I would never let that happen," my father said. He looked at Colton. "Tonight I want to introduce the future of Sears Meridian. My son, my heir, the one I have been raising for this." 80 people clapped. Colton walked to the front and shook my father's hand. There were photos, a cake. The band played my way. I stood near the back with a champagne flute I had not sipped. Nathan leaned in. "You okay?" "I'm fine." I set the glass on the nearest table. I have been fine my whole life. That night driving home, Nathan said nothing for 20 minutes. Then he didn't mention you at all. "I know. You saved that company 2 years ago, I know that too." I watched the highway lines pass and thought about my grandfather, Hank Sears, the man who lost everything because he trusted no one who did not carry his last name. My father spent his whole life trying not to repeat that mistake. He made a different one instead. I was the first person in the building every morning. 6:30, parking lot empty except for the night security guard finishing his shift. I would nod at him. Badge in, walk past the dark offices, and sit down at my desk next to the server room. My office shared a wall with the company's data infrastructure. When the servers hummed at night during batch processing, I could feel it through the floor. I liked that sound. It meant the numbers were running. It meant the system I built was working. Every audit trail in that company ran through my department. Vendor payments, payroll cycles, revenue recognition, quarterly SEC filings. I reviewed them all, not because it was required at my level, because I could not stop. That was my weakness. Not naivety, not blind loyalty, perfectionism over responsibility. I could not walk away from a spreadsheet with a rounding error. I could not leave the building knowing there was a purchase order I had not cross-referenced. 230 people depended on those numbers being right. Their mortgages, their kids' college funds, their retirement accounts. My mother called it overwork. "You are going to burn out, sweetheart," she would say on the phone. "Your brother knows how to delegate. You should learn from him." Colton knew how to delegate because Colton did not do anything worth holding on to. He delegated the work because there was no work to begin with. But in my mother's vocabulary, that was leadership. I did not argue with her. I had stopped arguing with my mother about Colton a long time ago. It never changed anything. She would just lower her voice and say the same thing she always said. "I will tell you what that was, but not yet." Thanksgiving, 14 months before the New Year's Eve party. Gerald, Diane, Colton, Colton's girlfriend, Lauren, Nathan and me, 6 people around a table meant for 12. Turkey, cranberry sauce, a casserole my mother made from a recipe she had clipped from a magazine in 1994. My father brought up succession, not subtly. He set down his fork and said, "I want to talk about the transition plan." He laid it out. Colton would move into a co-CEO role by spring, full CEO by the following January. The board would approve it. "Smooth handoff," Gerald said, "no drama." I put down my fork. "Have you considered a formal succession committee, board-level oversight, independent evaluation of candidates?" The table went quiet. Gerald looked at me like I had switched to a foreign language. "This is not a committee decision, Evelyn. This is family." Colton leaned back, smiled, did not say a word. He did not need to. My mother touched my arm under the table. I knew what was coming. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." She said it quiet, almost gentle, the way she said everything that was designed to make me stop talking. I picked up my fork, ate a bite of casserole, let it go. But here's what stayed with me after that dinner. Colton's quarterly numbers. His division had reported record vendor acquisitions that quarter. 12 new contracts, revenue projections up 19%. On paper, it looked like a miracle. I ran those numbers through my audit system the following Monday morning. 12 new contracts. 3 of them were with the same vendor under slightly different names. All payments routed to a single receiving account. I printed the report, took it home, sat on it for 2 weeks. That was the beginning. The vendor was called Greystone Industrial Supply. I had never heard of them before that Thanksgiving audit. They had appeared in our system 8 months earlier, listed as a supplier of specialized logistics components. Colton's division had signed them. I ran the standard checks. Business address, a P.O. box in Wilmington, Delaware. No physical office, no company website, no employees listed on LinkedIn, no Better Business Bureau profile, no state contractor registration. The payments were structured carefully. Monthly wire transfers, each one just under the reporting threshold. 3 contracts, 3 slightly different entity names. Greystone Industrial Supply LLC, Greystone Logistics Solutions, Inc., Greystone Supply Group. Same receiving account number on all 3 textbook. Someone had done this before, or someone had been told exactly how to do it. I pulled the payment authorizations. Every one of them had been approved within Colton's division. His assistant had processed the paperwork, his signature on the contract originals. Total dispersed to Greystone entities in 8 months, 2020 sent $2 million for a vendor that, as far as I could tell, did not manufacture, ship or deliver anything. I did not confront Colton. I did not go to my father. I did not call the board. I printed every document, every wire record, every contract. I put them in a folder, put the folder in my bag, and drove home. Nathan was in the kitchen when I came in. He looked at me carrying a 2-in stack of paper and said, "What are you reading?" I set the folder on the kitchen table, sat down, poured a glass of water. The beginning of something I cannot undo. He pulled out a chair and sat across from me. He did not ask me to explain. He waited. That weekend I spread every print out across our dining table. It took up the entire surface. Wire transfer records on the left, contract copies in the center, entity registration documents on the right. Nathan stood at the edge of the table with his arms crossed, reading upside down. He was an associate at a litigation firm that handled corporate compliance cases. Not securities law exactly, but close enough. "Shell Company," he said, pointing at the Delaware registration registered to a person named David Morrell. He looked at me. "Do you know that name?" "No, but Colton attended a trade conference in Atlanta 14 months ago." I pulled the attendee list. David Morrell was listed as a vendor representative at booth 17. Nathan exhaled slowly. "If this is what it looks like, it is not just internal fraud. The company is publicly traded, SEC filings, investor disclosures, quarterly reports. If those vendor payments are fraudulent, the financial statements Sears Meridian filed with the SEC are materially misstated. I know that makes it securities fraud. I know that too." He was quiet for a moment. Then you should file a whistleblower complaint. SEC confidential. Dodd-Frank protects your identity. If the sanctions exceed 1 million, you could be eligible for an award 10 to 30%. I shook my head. I am not doing this for money. I know you are not. But you need to do it through a system that protects you, because if you go to Gerald with this, he will bury it. And if he buries it, those 230 employees are the ones who pay when it finally comes out. He was right. If I tried to handle this inside the family, it would disappear. Not for the money, I said. For the record, December of the previous year, 13 months before the New Year's Eve party, I sat at the kitchen table after Nathan had gone to bed, laptop open, the SEC whistleblower tip submission portal, a long form, fields for company information, alleged violations, supporting documentation. I typed for 2 hours, detailed the Greystone entities, the payment patterns, the structuring, Colton's signatures, attached the printouts I had scanned, hit submit at 11:47 at night, confirmation screen, tip accepted, reference number assigned. A receipt email arrived seconds later. My phone buzzed on the table, the notification sound. I stared at it. 14 characters. A reference number that meant someone outside of my family, outside of that building, outside of Gerald's orbit, now knew what I knew. I screenshot the confirmation, saved it in an encrypted folder on a thumb drive, put the thumb drive in our home safe next to our marriage certificate and Nathan's grandfather's pocket watch. At work the next Monday, I walked in at 6:30 like always, nodded at the night guard, sat at my desk, opened the quarterly financials Gerald had asked me to prepare for the board. I did my job, every number perfect, every footnote accurate, because that was the point. I was not sabotaging anything, I was doing my job better than anyone in that building. But I also started building a second file, private, offline. Every Greystone transaction logged, every approval chain traced, every email between Colton's assistant and the accounts payable department. Dated, organized, cross-referenced. The company held its holiday party that week. Gerald stood in the cafeteria with a champagne glass and toasted. Another record year. Everyone raised their cups. Colton grinned. I held my glass. Did not drink. Smiled when they looked my way. If you have ever sat across a table from someone who took credit for everything you built and smiled through it, you know this feeling. If this story is hitting close to home, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below. Your story matters too. Now, let me tell you what I found next. 3 months after I filed, the SEC made contact. Not a phone call, not a letter, a message through the secure portal. An investigator had been assigned. They had reviewed my initial submission and opened a preliminary investigation into Sears Meridian Group. They wanted more. Specifically, they wanted internal documentation, payment authorization workflows, vendor onboarding records, communication logs between the business development division and the accounts payable department. I had all of it. Every piece, because I was the vice president of finance. These were my files, my system, my audit trails. Accessing them was not espionage, it was my job. Over the next 4 weeks I compiled a second submission, organized by category, payment records on top, vendor registrations in the middle, internal memos at the bottom. I uploaded them through the secure portal on a Sunday evening while Nathan read on the couch. Done? He asked without looking up. Second batch. How many more? At least 1, maybe 2. They need executive-level knowledge. He nodded. We did not discuss it further. At work, the rhythm continued. Gerald announced a company-wide town hall for the following month. The subject line on the calendar invite read, "The future of Sears Meridian." Everyone in the building knew what that meant. Succession. Colton's name on the masthead. My assistant Pam put it on my calendar and paused at my door. Should I block travel that week? No, I will be here. She looked at me for a second too long. Pam had been with me for 6 years. She did not miss things. Okay, she said and left. I opened the SEC portal and checked the status. Active under review, waiting for more. I had more. The town hall was held in the main conference room, standing room only. Every employee who could attend did. Gerald brought a podium. He brought a projector. He brought a slide deck with a timeline on it. The slide said, Leadership Transition Sears Meridian Group. Below it, a photo of Colton in a suit, arms crossed, smiling. The kind of photo that belongs on the cover of a magazine no one reads. Gerald spoke for 20 minutes. The founding story, the early years, the growth. Then every great company needs a successor who understands not just the numbers but the people, someone who builds relationships, someone who leads with vision. He paused, looked at Colton. I am proud to announce that my son Colton Sears will begin serving as co-CEO and training effective this spring. Applause, not thunderous, polite. The kind of clapping that fills a room without conviction. Colton took the podium. His speech was polished, rehearsed. Gerald's speechwriter had clearly drafted it. Colton thanked the employees, thanked the board, thanked everyone who made this possible. He did not mention my name. After the meeting, Pam came to my office and closed the door. He did not even say your name. I noticed you rebuilt the audit system. You saved the company in 2020. You are the reason payroll clears every 2 weeks. Pam? She stopped. I looked at her. I know what I did. I do not need Colton to list it. That evening my mother called. Was it not wonderful? Your brother looks so presidential? She actually said that. Presidential, I said. He looked like someone who practiced in front of a mirror. There was a pause. Evelyn, just my name, a period at the end of it, then silence. May late on a Thursday. Most of the building had cleared out by 6. I was still at my desk finishing the quarterly vendor reconciliation. Routine work, the kind of thing I could do with my eyes half closed. Gerald's office was dark. He was at a golf fundraiser in Hilton Head. Would not be back until Monday. I needed the vendor master file, the physical copy. Gerald kept the originals in a locked filing cabinet behind his desk. He was old-fashioned that way. Digital copies lived on the server. Originals lived in Gerald's cabinet. Paper does not crash, he used to say. I had watched him open that cabinet hundreds of times. He kept the key in the top right drawer of his desk, tucked behind a box of monogrammed pens he had received at his 50th birthday. I walked into his office. The light from the hallway cut a stripe across his carpet. I opened the drawer, found the key behind the pens. Small brass key scratched old. I opened the cabinet. Third folder from the front labeled Vendor Contracts Current Year. Inside 12 folders, one for each active vendor. The 6th one was marked Greystone Industrial Supply. Inside the original contract signed by Colton, countersigned by David Morrell. Terms: monthly retainer for logistics consulting services. Deliverables: none specified. Payment schedule: structured monthly transfers. I photographed every page, front and back. 17 images. I returned the folder to its exact position. Closed the cabinet, locked it, put the key back behind the pens, closed the drawer, walked out, badge out, parking lot car. I drove home with my phone on the passenger seat. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from the weight of certainty. 14 months of suspicion, and now I was holding proof. Helen Ostraki had been on the board of Sears Meridian for 9 years. Retired CFO of a packaging company 3 times our size. Sharp, steady, the kind of woman who wore reading glasses on a chain and still made boardroom lawyers nervous. She had been my mentor since year 2. Coffee once a month at a cafe off campus. No agenda, just conversation. That month I asked her a question I had never asked before. Helen, when you were CFO, did you ever see vendor contracts that did not make sense? She set her cup down, looked at me over those reading glasses. Once I brought it to the board, they formed a subcommittee. The subcommittee met twice. Then the vendor contract was reclassified as a consulting agreement and nobody mentioned it again. What happened to the vendor? Still active last I checked. She paused. Is this about Greystone? My coffee was halfway to my mouth. I froze. Helen leaned forward. I am 58 years old, Evelyn. I have been reading financial statements since before you were born. I noticed things. I noticed the Greystone entities 6 months ago. 3 names, 1 account, structured payments below the reporting line. Why did you not say anything? Because the last time I said something, I learned that saying something inside these walls does not change anything. It just changes who gets to stay. She picked up her cup. But you have something I did not have back then. What? Access and youth and a husband who understands securities law. I did not confirm anything. She did not ask me to. She just said, whatever path you are on, finish it. I finished my coffee. We talked about the weather. She told me about her garden. We did not mention Greystone again. June, the 3rd submission to the SEC. This one was different. The first 2 had been financial records, numbers, patterns. This one had faces. I uploaded the photographs of the original Greystone contract. Colton's signature clear as a headline. David Morrell's counter signature beside it. I included the corporate registration for Greystone Industrial Supply LLC filed in Delaware listing David Morrell as sole member. And I included a conference attendee list from Atlanta 14 months prior showing both Colton Sears and David Morrell registered for the same industry trade show. Booth 17 and Booth 42 adjacent ISS investigator responded within a week. Secure portal message. The documentation is substantial. We are building a formal case file. To proceed to the enforcement stage, we will need one additional element. Evidence of executive-level knowledge or direction. Specifically communication demonstrating that senior leadership was aware of the arrangement. Senior leadership, they meant Gerald. They were asking me to prove that my father knew. I sat with that for a week, not because I doubted it, because proving it meant something I could not take back. The following Tuesday Gerald took me to lunch, a steakhouse downtown, just the two of us. That almost never happened. He ordered a bourbon and leaned back. "I know this succession plan is hard for you," he said. "You have given more to this company than most people will ever understand, but passing it to Colton, it is what is right for the family." I looked at him across that table. The man who built an empire and confused his son's last name for merit. "I understand," I said. "I did more than he would ever know." The executive-level evidence was somewhere in his office in a locked cabinet behind a brass key. August, a Wednesday. Gerald was in New York for investor meetings 2 days away. I went to his office at 7 in the evening, building almost empty, badge in, hallway lights on motion sensor. My footsteps on the carpet were the only sound. The key was behind the pens. Same as before. Same scratch on the brass, same weight in my palm. I opened the cabinet. This time I was not looking for vendor contracts, I was looking for something Gerald kept separately. A folder I had noticed the last time but not opened. Labeled CS Vendor Review. CS Colton Sears. Inside 4 pages of an email chain between Gerald and Colton dated 11 months earlier. Subject line: Re Greystone handle quietly. The first email was from Colton. "Dad, Greystone invoice for Q3 is ready." Same structure as before. "Dave says he needs the wire by Friday." Gerald's reply: "I have reviewed the arrangement. The numbers work for the quarter. Make sure the invoicing does not cross the threshold. I will handle the board questions." I read it twice, 3 times. Let the words settle. Gerald knew. Gerald directed it. Gerald wrote, "I will handle the board questions," like he was scheduling a lunch meeting. I photographed both pages, returned the folder, locked the cabinet, key behind the pens, closed the drawer, walked out. At home, Nathan was at the kitchen table. I sat across from him and handed over my phone. He read the photos, exhaled, closed his eyes. "This is it," he said. "This is the executive-level knowledge they need." I took the phone back, looked at the screenshot of Gerald's words. "I will handle the board questions." And I thought about another phrase he loved to use. The one about Colton, the one who actually earned it. The irony was not complicated, it was just complete. My father built a wall to protect his son's fraud and called it legacy. I submitted the email that weekend. The SEC confirmed receipt within hours. September bled into October. The SEC investigator confirmed that the case was now in the formal enforcement pipeline. Timeline, I asked through the portal. Months was the answer, not weeks. I could wait. I had been waiting my entire life for people to see what I saw. A few more months was nothing. At the office, life moved at its own pace. Colton started redecorating Gerald's corner office. New desk, new bookshelves, a nameplate that said Colton Sears, CEO, even though the title had not been officially conferred. Gerald walked past it one morning, smiled, and kept walking. I walked past it every day on the way to the server room. Every single day. October board meeting. Gerald presented the formal CEO transition plan. Colton Sears to assume the role of Chief Executive Officer effective January 1st. Phased handover during the 4th quarter. Announcement to employees and shareholders in December. The board voted 5% in favor, 2 against. Helen Ostrowski voted no. She did not explain why. She did not need to. I abstained conflict of interest. I was family and I was finance. The abstention was protocol, but it felt like something else. That evening I sat in the car in the office parking lot for 15 minutes before starting the engine. Nathan called. "How did it go?" 5-2, they approved it. "When?" "January 1st. He was quiet. "Then what do you need?" "One more signature, one more contract from Colton through Greystone, something recent. Something that proves the scheme is still active." "When?" "Soon. He is going to sign something before year end. He always does. Q4 vendor pushes are his thing." Nathan. And then I finished this. I started the car, drove home, made dinner, did not think about champagne. November, 3 days before Thanksgiving, a purchase order landed on my desk. Routing slip attached. Colton's division, Greystone Logistics Solutions, Inc. Amount, $890,000. Category Logistics Consulting Services. Duration, 6 months, $890,000. The biggest single Greystone contract yet. Under company policy, any vendor payment exceeding $500,000 required the signature of the VP of Finance. That was me. Colton needed my authorization to complete the transaction. The routing slip sat on my desk for 1 hour. I looked at it the way a surgeon looks at an X-ray, clinical, detached, reading the damage underneath. Then I signed it. I authorized the payment because that was my job. Because refusing it without stated cause would have triggered questions I was not ready to answer. And because I needed that contract in the SEC file, a fresh signature, a current transaction, proof that the scheme was not historical. It was ongoing. Colton did not call to thank me. He did not even know it had crossed my desk. His assistant had routed it through the standard approval chain. I was a checkbox. That evening I scanned the signed contract, the rowing slip, and the wire authorization. I opened the SEC portal and uploaded them as a supplemental filing. The final piece, the golden documents, were now complete. Shell company registration, payment records, Colton's signatures across 18 months of transactions, Gerald's cover-up email, and now the November contract with my own approval. A VP Finance doing her job, unknowingly authorizing her brother's fraud. I closed the laptop, picked up my phone, texted Nathan one word, done. He replied with a period. No words, just acknowledgement. Everything was in the file, everything was with the SEC. All that remained was timing. The invitation arrived the first week of December. Cream cardstock, engraved lettering, gold border. Gerald and Diane Sears cordially request your presence at their annual New Year's Eve celebration. A very special announcement will be made at midnight. Black Tie Estate Ballroom, please reply by December 15th. I held the card in my kitchen, read it twice, set it on the counter next to the fruit bowl. A very special announcement. Midnight, 140 guests. I knew exactly what the announcement would be. The succession, the crown, your son moment, champagne, band, the whole production. My mother called that afternoon. Did you get the invitation? I did. Wear something nice, sweetheart. This is Colton's night. She paused. And Evelyn, yes, Mom. Don't make this harder than it has to be. There it was. The phrase. The same 6 words she had used at Thanksgiving. The same tone, quiet, almost caring, designed to make me shrink just enough to fit inside the space they had assigned me. I will be there, Mom. Good. Your father is really looking forward to it. I hung up, walked to my home office, opened my laptop. The SEC case file was bookmarked. I clicked it. Scrolled through the submissions, 4 batches, 14 months of documentation, contracts, wire records, corporate registrations, Gerald's email, Colton's signatures, the November contract, all of it sitting in a federal system waiting. I closed the laptop, went back to the kitchen, picked up the invitation again. Black tie, estate ballroom, a very special announcement at midnight. I opened my closet. I picked out a black structured top and silver statement earrings. Simple, clean, the kind of outfit that does not ask for attention, but does not apologize for being in the room. I would be there and I would bring my phone. Mid-December, my attorney called, not Nathan. My attorney, I had retained her separately through a different firm. Clean lines, no overlap, no conflicts. Her name was Claire. She was direct. The SEC has confirmed the investigation is active. Formal enforcement referral is on the table. If new evidence is submitted before any corporate action is finalized, it creates a clear timing record, meaning if you submit supplemental evidence before the succession takes effect, it demonstrates that the SEC had material information prior to the leadership change that strengthens the case and complicates any argument that the transition was conducted in good faith. I understood the succession was scheduled for January 1. The announcement at midnight on New Year's Eve was the public-facing moment. If I submitted evidence before that announcement, the SEC's record would show that the agency received fraud documentation before the company handed itself to the person committing the fraud. So, the timing matters, I said. The timing is everything. I spent the next 2 weeks preparing a supplemental filing, a clean summary, a timeline connecting every Greystone transaction from month 1 to month 18 cross-referenced with Colton's travel records, Gerald's email, and the November contract, 42 pages, 3 contracts, 1 cover-up directive, 1 complete pattern. I formatted it as a single PDF, uploaded it to the SEC's electronic submission portal as a draft. Saved, not submitted, 1 button away. Approve and submit. 2 words on a gray button, all I had to do was tap it. Nathan asked me one night when. Midnight, I said. He did not ask why midnight, he already knew. Gerald had chosen midnight. Gerald had chosen the stage. Gerald had chosen the audience. I was just choosing the same clock. She spent 14 months building a case that fit inside a single email. If you know what it is like to stay quiet while everyone else celebrates the wrong person, stay with me. The countdown is about to start. Like this video if you are watching past midnight too. December 31st. I woke up at 6:15. Force of habit. The bedroom was dark. Nathan was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, dressed. We did not talk about tonight. Not yet. I went downstairs, made coffee, toast with butter, sat at the kitchen table, normal, ordinary. A Tuesday morning routine on the last day of the year. I opened my phone. The SEC portal was bookmarked. I tapped it. The draft submission was there. 42 pages attached. Status draft, 1 gray button. Approve and submit. I closed the app. Drank my coffee. A text from Colton at 8:37. Sis, tonight is going to be great. Dad has something special planned. You should see the champagne they ordered. 32 cases. 32 cases for 140 guests. That was almost 3 bottles per person. Gerald Sears did not do anything at half volume. I typed back, cannot wait. Deleted the period. Typed it again with a period. Nathan came downstairs. You okay? Ask me tomorrow. He poured his own coffee. We sat across from each other. The folder was not on the table anymore. The printouts were not spread across the dining room. There was nothing to spread. Everything was digital now. Everything was in the system. 14 months of documentation compressed into a 42-page PDF sitting in a government server waiting for one thumb press. At 4 in the afternoon I showered, dried my hair, put it up. French twist, platinum blonde, pulled tight. I put on the black structured top, the silver earrings, looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. I did not look like someone about to end her brother's career and put her father under investigation. I looked like someone going to a party. That was the point. Nathan drove. He always drove when we went to the estate. I sat in the passenger seat and watched the road. 45 minutes from our house in the suburbs to the family property. Highway first, then 2-lane county roads, then the long gravel driveway lined with catering trucks and a valet station my mother had set up because she did not want 140 cars on the lawn. We passed a field of winter stubble, bare trees. The sun was already gone, just a gray line where the horizon used to be. Nathan said, "You do not have to do this tonight. I do not have to do this any night." I looked at him. But they chose tonight. They made it public. I looked at his, a band, a champagne toast. They chose the stage. I did not pick the audience. His jaw tightened. He nodded. My phone buzzed. Text from Claire, my attorney. Portal confirmed operational. Ready when you are. I read it. Did not reply. Set the phone in my clutch. We turned onto the gravel drive. Through the trees I could see the house. Lights on in every window, a white tent over the back terrace. The band was doing a sound check. I could hear the bass through the car windows. Nathan parked at the edge of the valet line. We sat for a moment, the engine ticking. A caterer walked past carrying a tray of champagne glasses. Crystal, Gerald's signature. Nathan reached over and took my hand. Squeezed it once. Not the way you squeeze when you are scared. The way you squeeze when you are ready. This was the first squeeze. The one before the party. The one that meant I am with you. Whatever happens next, I am with you. Let us go, I said. The ballroom was Gerald's masterpiece. Crystal chandeliers hanging from a vated ceiling. Hardwood floors polished to a mirror shine. A 12-piece band on a raised stage at the far end. Playing standards. Sinatra Bennett. The kind of music my father believed made people feel wealthy. Champagne towers, 3 of them. Stacked glasses catching the light. Waitstaff in black vests weaving through the crowd with silver trays or d'oeuvres I could not name. 140 guests. I counted as I worked the room. Board members in tailored suits, business partners with their wives. The mayor of Charlotte, 2 state representatives, the company's outside legal counsel, a man named Phillips who charged $400 an hour and looked like he had never missed a meal. 3 journalists from the regional business press standing near the bar with notebooks. Gerald was holding court near the terrace doors, bourbon in hand, Colton beside him, new suit, charcoal, slim cut. On his wrist, a watch Gerald had given him for Christmas. P.C. Felipe. I knew because my mother had texted me a photo of the receipt. Isn't it stunning? She had written. I had not replied. Diane was adjusting Colton's lapel, smoothing the fabric. Maternal, proud. The perfect portrait of a family about to crown its prince. I crossed the room, shook hands, smiled. Happy New Year, so glad you could come. The ballroom looks wonderful, small talk, easy, practiced. Helen Ostracki was near the bar sipping water. She caught my eye across the room. A nod. Brief. No words. I checked my phone, 10:47, the draft email was still there. Approve and submit, gray button, waiting. I slipped the phone back into my clutch and picked up a glass of champagne. Did not drink, not yet. 11:15. The party was in full rhythm. Laughter and music and the clink of glasses against each other. I touched Nathan's arm. I will be right back. He looked at me. Understood. Take your time. I walked out of the ballroom and down the hallway. The estate was a big house, the kind with hallways that echoed when no one was in them. Gerald's home office was at the end of the east wing, dark door open. I stepped inside. The filing cabinet stood against the wall where it always stood. The desk was neat. Pen holder, family photo, the top right drawer. I opened it. The key was there behind the box of monogrammed pens. Same as always, same brass, same scratch. I picked it up, held it in my palm, felt the weight. I did not need it anymore. Every document that mattered was already in the SEC system. The contracts, the signatures, the email. Gerald's words captured in pixels on a government server. The filing cabinet had given me everything it had to give. I put the key back exact position behind the pens, closed the drawer, stood in the dark office for a moment. Through the wall I could hear the band playing. Muffled bass and trumpet. A woman's laugh somewhere in the hallway. I walked back to the ballroom. Nathan was by the terrace doors holding a glass of water. He handed me my champagne. I had left it on a table. "Done?" he asked. There was nothing to do. I just needed to put something back. He did not ask what. He took my arm. We walked toward the dance floor. "It is almost midnight," he said. "I know." The band played a slow song. We did not dance. We just stood near the edge and waited. 11:58. The band stopped Midong. Gerald walked to the stage. Someone handed him a microphone. Someone else handed him a champagne glass. Fresh, full bubbles rising. The room went quiet. 140 faces turned toward the stage. The chandeliers caught the light and threw little diamonds across the ceiling. Gerald cleared his throat. 30 years ago, he began. I started this company in a rented warehouse outside of Charlotte with one truck and a line of credit that 3 banks had the good sense to approve. A laugh from the crowd. Warm practiced. Gerald was good at this. He had always been good at this. He traced the history. The early contracts, the first warehouse expansion, the IPO, the growth years. 230 employees who counted on Sears Meridian to make payroll every 2 weeks. Then he paused, looked at the crowd, found Colton in the front row. But every founder has to face one question, Gerald said. Who carries it forward? Who do you trust with the thing you built? He lifted his glass. The room lifted theirs. Tonight, at the start of a new year, I am officially handing the leadership of Sears Meridian Group to my son, Colton Sears. Gerald's voice caught just slightly. Emotion or theater? I could never tell the difference with him, the one who actually earned it. Standing ovation. Champagne raised. Colton walked to the stage, shook Gerald's hand, flashbulbs from the business press, Diane in the front row dabbing her eyes with a napkin. I stood near the back wall. Nathan's hand found mine under my clutch. The second squeeze, the one from the hook, the one that meant, now. Someone started the countdown. 10, 9, 8, the room chanted together. 7. I opened my clutch, took out my phone, unlocked it. 6. Open the SEC portal. The draft submission loaded. 42 pages, 3 contracts, 1 cover-up email, 1 timeline. 5. The gray button, approve and submit. My thumb hovered over it. 4. Nathan leaned close to my ear. You are sure? 3. I have been sure for 14 months. 2. I took a breath. 1 midnight fireworks erupted on the terrace. Through the glass doors I could see gold and silver sparks raining down over the lawn. The room exploded, cheers, noisemakers, champagne corks popping in every direction. The band launched into Al Lang Syne. Confetti fell from somewhere above the chandeliers. I tapped the button. The screen changed. A loading circle, reference number SECWB 2541738. The last year was gone. I closed the app, locked the phone, put it back in my clutch, from the table beside me, took 1 sip. My phone buzzed inside the clutch, confirmation email, the notification sound. The same sound I had heard 13 months ago when the first tip was accepted. I silenced it without looking. Nathan pulled me close, one arm around my waist. Happy New Year, he said. Happy New Year. For 11 minutes the party continued. The band played. People danced. Colton accepted congratulations near the stage. Gerald shook hands by the bar. Diane posed for photos. Nathan and I danced. One song, a slow one, his hand on my back, my phone in my clutch. The most expensive email I had ever sent already in a federal server. 11 minutes of normal. Then the first phone buzzed. 12:11. Marcus Webb was near the bar. Chief of Staff, 52. Gray suit. Conservative tie. The kind of man who made his living by standing 3 feet behind Gerald Sears, and knowing everything before Gerald did. His phone buzzed. He pulled it from his jacket, read the screen, read it again. The company's outside law firm ran an automated regulatory monitoring system. Any new filing with the SEC that referenced Sears Meridian Group triggered an alert. It was a standard service. Most public companies had one. The kind of thing nobody thinks about until the alert actually fires. It had just fired. Marcus set down his drink. His face changed the way a face changes when the math stops working. Not panic, not fear, just a sudden recalculation of everything. He walked toward Gerald. Not fast, not slow. The pace of a man who knows that what he is about to say cannot be unsaid. Gerald was still by the terrace doors, holding a champagne glass, smiling, shaking a board member's hand. Marcus leaned in close to Gerald's ear. I could not hear the words from across the room, but I could read the posture. Marcus's hand on Gerald's shoulder, Gerald's smile dropping not gradually all at once like a light switch. Gerald sat down his champagne glass on the nearest table, did not finish it. The glass sat there untouched, bubbles rising and going nowhere. He whispered something back to Marcus. Marcus shook his head. Gerald looked across the room. His eyes moved through the crowd, past the dancers, past the waitstaff, past Colton near the stage, and found me standing near the back wall, Nathan beside me, champagne in my hand. I held his gaze, did not look away. He looked at me for what felt like a full minute. Then he turned back to Marcus. 12:13 Gerald pulled the outside counsel Phillips to a corner by the terrace doors. An urgent conversation. Phillips checked his phone, nodded. His jaw tightened. They whispered. Colton noticed. He had been accepting congratulations near the stage. Champagne in hand, grinning. He crossed the room. Dad, what is going on? Gerald did not look at him. Not now, Dad. People are asking me about the transition timeline. I need to, I said. Not now, Colton. Colton's grin slipped. He looked at Marcus, at Phillips. Neither of them looked back. The whisper spread like water through cracks. Board members checking phones, a cluster of suits near the bar, heads together. 2 directors looked at each other across the room and one of them mouthed something I could not read. Helen Ostrowski stood near the dessert table. She was not checking her phone. She was watching, sipping water, patient. Diane crossed the room to Gerald. What happened? You look pale, we have a problem. What kind of problem? Gerald's voice was low, controlled, but it carried. The kind that does not wait until morning. Diane looked at Phillips, looked at Marcus, looked around the room at the guests who were still dancing, still laughing, still unaware. Then she looked at me. I was standing in the same spot. Nathan's hand on my arm, my champagne halfway gone. Diane looked at me the way you look at someone when you suspect them of something but cannot prove it. A long look. Then she turned back to Gerald. The band was still playing but the energy had shifted. Everyone felt it. 12,117. Gerald walked back to the stage. Slow, measured. The walk of a man carrying something heavy that nobody else could see. He signaled the band leader. A raised hand, the music stopped mid-phrase. Trumpet cut short. Drums silent. The bass player's hand went flat on the strings. The silence hit the room like a wall. 140 faces turned toward the stage for the second time that night. Gerald picked up the microphone. His hand was steady. His voice was not. I need to make a brief additional announcement. The room was still. Not the comfortable stillness of anticipation. The rigid stillness of alarm. Due to a regulatory matter that has just come to our attention, the leadership transition I announced earlier will be put on hold. Effective immediately. Silence complete. The kind of silence where you can hear champagne bubbles breaking at the surface. Colton was standing 3 feet from the stage, his champagne glass was still in his hand. What? He stepped forward. Dad, what are you talking about? Colton, please, not here. You just told every person in this room that I am CEO. You stood on that stage and said, I said not here. Gerald's voice cracked. Not with emotion, with authority failing. Colton's face drained of color, the watch on his wrist, the PC Philippe, the Christmas gift caught the chandelier light. Murmurs spread through the room. Guests looked at each other. The band leader stood frozen, baton in hand. A champagne glass clinked against a table somewhere behind me. A caterer paused mid-step near the dessert tower. I stood near the back wall, Nathan beside me. My champagne was in my hand. I took one more sip. The band did not play again. 12:25, the party was breaking apart. Guests reaching for coats. Awkward goodbyes at the door. Thank you for a lovely evening. Happy New Year. Drive safe. The language of people who do not know what they just witnessed but know they should leave. Colton was on the terrace, phone pressed to his ear, pacing. His voice carried through the glass doors, but I could not make out the words, only the pitch. Hi, panicked. I walked down the hallway toward the coat closet. Gerald was sitting on a bench near the staircase alone, hands on his knees, his suit jacket unbuttoned. He looked 10 years older than he had 2 hours ago. He saw me. It was you. Not a question. I said nothing. I stood in the hallway and let him fill the silence. How long? 14 months. He exhaled. A long breath. The kind that empties you. I knew about Greystone. I thought I could manage it. Fix it before anyone noticed. Restructure the contracts. Phase out the vendor. You were not fixing it. You were hiding it. He stared at the floor. My father lost everything because he had no son to carry it forward. I told myself I would not make the same mistake. He looked up at me. His eyes were red but dry. I knew Colton was not ready. I just could not let your grandfather be right. I stood there. I let that sentence hang in the air. My father, 63 years old, sitting on a bench in a hallway while his party collapsed around him, trapped by a dead man's failure. Grandpa did not lose his company because of his daughter's dad. He lost it because he never trusted them. Diane appeared at the end of the hallway, coat on, clutch in hand. Her eyes were hard, not sad, not confused, angry. She walked toward me, heels clicking on the hardwood. Gerald did not stand up. "Do you understand what you have done?" Her voice was tight, controlled, the same control she had used my entire life to smooth over every crack in this family. "To this family, to your father, to everything he has built." I waited. I knew what was coming. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." Same words, same tone. The phrase she had used at every Thanksgiving, every phone call, every moment I had ever tried to be heard. But this time, I was done hearing it. "It was already hard, Mom." My voice was level. "I did not raise it, you just did not notice." She opened her mouth, closed it. Her jaw worked, but nothing came out. For the first time in my life, Diane Sears had no follow-up, no smoothing, no redirect. She turned, walked to the front door, did not look back. Nathan appeared with my coat draped over his arm. He handed it to me. I put it on. We walked to the front door together. The driveway was lined with departing cars. Red tail lights down the gravel drive. The catering trucks were already packing up. The tent over the terrace was dark. I stopped at the car, looked back at the house. Every window was still lit. A big house full of empty light. Nathan opened the door for me. I got in. He drove. We did not speak for the first 20 minutes. "Then you okay?" "Not yet, but I will be." January, the aftermath came in waves. First week, Sears Meridian Group filed an 8K with the SEC disclosing an internal investigation into vendor-related transactions within the business development division. The stock dropped 14% in 2 trading days. The Charlotte Business Journal ran it on the front page. Sears Meridian discloses SEC probe. Second week, the board convened an emergency session 6 hours behind closed doors. When they came out, Gerald Sears had agreed to step aside as CEO pending the outcome of the investigation. No severance negotiation, no transition period. Effective immediately. Helen Ostracki was named interim chair of the board. Third week, Colton was placed on administrative leave. His VP title was suspended. Access badge deactivated. The Greystone Industrial Supply accounts were frozen by court order. David Morrell was served with a subpoena at his home in Atlanta. The board asked me to serve as interim chief financial officer. I accepted. My first act was a full vendor audit across all 4 facilities, transparent, documented by the book. The 230 employees kept their jobs. The company did not collapse. It pivoted. I restructured the vendor pipeline within 60 days, replaced Greystone's contracts with 3 vetted suppliers. Payroll cleared every 2 weeks without interruption. Colton called me once, I let it go to voicemail. His message was short. "I hope you are happy." I deleted it. Gerald sent a letter handwritten on his personal stationery. 2 sentences. "You were always the backbone." I was too blind to say it. I read it. Folded it. Put it in my desk drawer at work. Did not reply. In February, a new board member asked me during a committee meeting how I had come to the CFO role. I looked at her across the conference table. I was the one who actually earned it. The room went quiet. Helen Ostracki smiled into her water glass. "I did not say it to be clever. I said it because it was true. And because the last person to say those words had been wrong." March. The SEC investigation was ongoing. My attorney Claire told me the enforcement case was progressing. Total sanctions under consideration exceeded $4 million. As a whistleblower, my award could range from $400,000 to $1.2 million. I told her I did not want to think about the number yet. I thought about the quarterly audit instead. For the first time in years, it was clean. Every vendor verified, every payment traceable, every number real. Planted a garden that spring. Tomatoes, basil, a row of herbs along the back fence, something that grew because we tended it, something that nobody else could take credit for. At work, I hired 2 new analysts for the finance department, promoted Pam to department coordinator. She cried in my office for about 3 seconds, then pulled herself together and asked when she could start. My mother called once, late March. "Your father is not well, his blood pressure, the stress." "I am sorry to hear that. He can call me when he is ready to talk honestly." Gerald did not call. That was okay. I did not need him to. There was a boundary now, clear, visible. I loved my father. I did not trust him. And I had learned that those are different things. You can love someone and still refuse to let them use you. You can miss someone and still lock the door. Spring came early that year. The tomatoes grew faster than expected. Nathan built a trellis from scrap wood on a Saturday afternoon. I watched from the kitchen window and thought, this is what peace looks like when you earn it. I used to think that earning your place in a family meant being quiet, being useful, being the one who stayed late and caught the errors and never asked for applause. But earning your place is not about what they let you do. it is about what you refuse to let them take. And the truth does not need a champagne toast or a stage or a 12-piece band. It just needs one person willing to press send. That is my story. 14 months of silence, one email at midnight, and a band that stopped playing. If this reminded you of your own midnight moment, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next.